शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवद्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः विष्णुर्वः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मसि त्वमेव वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यश्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् संबभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि द्रविणगुं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कुर्वेदानुवचनम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत्। अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मा ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य मानीस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रन्नो अपि वातय मनः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं कर्मेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यो ब्रह्मानं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तं हदेवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Verse number 6. Esha Sarveshwaraha Esha Sarvagyaha Esha Antaryami Esha Yonihi Sarvasya Prabhavapyayo hi Bhutanam Karika numbers 8 and 9 on page 3. You can just repeat after me. Ichha matram prabhoh shrishtihi iti srishtau vinishritaha kalat prasutim bhutanam manyante kalacintikaah bhogartham srishtiti anye bhogartham srishtiti anye kridarthamiti chapare devasyaisha swabhavoyam shaisha swabhavoyam aptakamasya ka spriha. So this class is an advanced class, and so we will look into the nuances of things. So it may be that you have to follow along with, because these commentaries, etc., are assuming that you know a lot of the stuff. So it is actually a commentary on the commentary. And so, but I want to keep it that way in this particular class, because there are other classes that go into more fundamentals, and you also read your own. So I just want to let you know that sometimes these arguments may look obtuse to you, And so we have to really challenge ourselves to understand the subtleties of what the teachers are saying. So just a revision of the context, the topic that we are doing, and then we'll get into the more details of it. If you recall, the topic that we should keep the big picture in mind when we try to put the specific verses into context. So the context that we are discussing is something that uniquely defines the Vedic teaching. One has to really grasp it. And not only the general Vedic teaching, but the essence of the Vedic teaching in the form of Vedanta. And this is a very rare thing, rarely available. Not as though it's being kept as a secret, but people don't get it. And so there's no use banding it around. It has to be kept in a way that people the right kind of minds can grasp it. So it is a rare thing. And to understand what is it that it is saying, this is what is called Tatparya Nishchaya. This is not easy, but we need to get introduced to what it is that it is saying. So what the topic is and what the Vedanta is saying is this, that when you view your life, when you view your experiences, the way the things are moving and so on and so forth, you should keep in mind that answers are not going to come from outside. Not going to happen. And why that is the case, we need to understand it. Don't take anybody else's word. The answers are not going to come. Okay, you have to question it. Why? Why is it that it's not going to happen? And also the other aspect of that is to put the mind at ease. It is not necessary for things to make sense to you. Not necessary. So we are always in the opinion that I don't understand how the whole thing is working, and I need to get a grasp of it, and we can figure it out. So Vedanta says, please, remember you cannot figure it out. And the better part is you don't need to figure it out. To that I also have to understand, why is it that I don't need to figure it out? So those aspects have to be kept in mind. So the whole discussion here with respect to what we are saying and how the various schools of thought are approaching this issue. You and I may not be smart enough for us to really analyze, but the experts, how are they analyzing? And so in that context, Vedanta says, please understand that when everyone is trying to analyze, they're making a very simple mistake. And that is, they are looking at the whole world and and the experiences as something which is real and has to be explained. Here, the analogy of the rope and snake is a very beautiful one. Not only beautiful, it's just very important for us to really grasp it. So if the snake is real, then there is a vyavastha. You can actually analyze it. How did it come here, etc. We've gone through all of that. But if the issue is that the snake is not real, it is imagined, then you cannot figure it out other than the fact that it doesn't exist. This is where you have to put your attention. You can ask, how is it that it doesn't exist? And so there we have to look at the arguments provided by Vedanta, etc. In the Gita class, which is to follow this, we have an important, I was just reviewing the verse, and some of it is relevant here as well. So there's a verse number on chapter 4 that we're going to do today, I believe number 38. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate, which is one of our favorite bylines at the ashram also, Swamiji's Nahi jnanena. And then following that, there is another one which says Shraddhavan eva iti labhate jnanam. Shraddhavan eva labhate iti jnanam means that we need to have a certain shraddha. So here, Swami Maheshananji's commentary is just a marvelous one. We'll cover that in more detail in the Gita class today. But what he's saying is, what Swami Maheshananji is saying, that we need Shraddha, we base our life on Shraddha. He gave a very simple example. He says, if you're hungry, supposing you're hungry, then you have Shraddha that if you eat this much food, your hunger will be gone. 2 chapatis and some dal and some sabzi, whatever it is, you have Shraddha. Shraddha meaning that you have knowledge and faith that this is going to work. If you eat 2 chapatis and your hunger is still not gone, then you eat another chapati. And then that's it, then it will be gone. So our life's attitude is based on a certain Shraddha. This is how things are supposed to work. If you turn the ignition on, the car should start. Shraddha. Now comes along Vedanta, which says that the qualities of Paramatma are that you are unlimited, not under the spell of time. You are not born. You cannot die. These are the qualities of Paramatma. And the qualities of Paramatma are none other than you, because you are making a distinction between yourself and Paramatma, which creates a problem. But if you could understand that the qualities of Paramatma are you, then you'll be free. So Swami Maheshananji says this concept is not something that you have some natural Shraddha for. Cannot have it. Cannot have it, because you've never, in the case of having food to quench your hunger or thirst, you have Shraddha because you have some experience. Here, what experience do you have? You have no experience. It looks very strange. But and so we're going to discuss this again in great detail. You need to have Shraddha. You need to have Shraddha because there is no other way. If you look at the entire, just imagine the entire experiences of humankind, which means science and philosophers, and this is what Swami Maheshananji is so articulate in pointing this out. He says there's no answers. It's not as though now we have become very smart. And 200 years ago we were so stupid. Now science has progressed so much. We've got cell phones, this, that, or the other. Now we can figure it out. Before that, do you know this has been going on for millions of years? That people make progress and so on and so forth. There's a lot of thinking and so on and so forth. Despite that, you cannot figure it out. And we will go into some more detail on some examples of this. Cannot figure it out. cannot figure it out. Swami Maheshanji gives an example. He says, and Swami Dayananda also exactly very similarly to that. He said, you know, if you have to just analyze something very simple like a rose. You take a rose and you analyze how a rose is what it is. And you can go into some DNA analysis and, electrons, protons, molecules, molecular structure, how it can come about, how long will it rise, and so on and so forth. Then you say something, an aroma of the rose. And you ask the scientist, you know, how did the rose have this particular aroma? Something very peculiar. I mean, once you identify it, you can just close your eyes and a rose is given. You say, yep, that's a rose. That aroma, how did it come about? You know what the scientists are going to say? We don't know. We don't know. So it's very interesting. This is an important thing to see. So the scientists believe, as an example of the error that humankind make, that we will figure it out. We are in the process of figuring it out. And just give us some more time. And we will award some PhDs. And by the way, the government has to pay for it and all of that. And these guys will figure it out. We'll figure it out. Nothing needs to be outside the figuring it out realm. But if you look at the final analysis of all research and so on, they say, this we do not know. This we do not know. So the Vedanta says, you know something, you might as well admit from the very beginning that the fundamental aspect of the whole world is you cannot completely figure it out. But the world doesn't rest on its laurels. It says, no, how can it not be? How we have making a lot of progress, and we'll figure it out. Not possible. And then the important thing to see, because trying to figure it out is based on the assumption that once we figure it out, we're going to be very happy. Then we can completely explain how everything work and so on. But Vedanta says that, listen, Vedic knowledge says that please understand that you don't need to figure it out. If you want to figure it out of your volition, go ahead and do it. We're not saying this is bad, but to use that as a fundamental condition before you become happy is not necessary. And please put your energies on understanding why that is the case. Praptasya praptihi, natu apraptasya praptihi. And so you can, instead of trying to understand where the snake came from, put your energies in understanding that it doesn't exist. And this is why I brought in the question of Shraddha. So in the case of a snake being pointed out by a very simple mechanism of throwing more light, bringing somebody up there and says, please don't be afraid, I'm telling you this is not a snake, it is in your house, and let me show you by flashing a flashlight. Simple, done. In our case, that is not the case, because we need Shraddha. We have no idea who to have Shraddha for, and it takes a long time. Again, we will go into this in the Gita class. Why does it take a long time? But you need Shraddha. So to close off the topic, it is important to see what Vedanta is saying, that it is fundamentally different from other schools of thought. Why? Because the other schools of thought start with the assumption this is real and we need to figure it out. There's some theories. We say no. You are leaving out the most fundamental aspect of the whole creation, which is it cannot be figured it out. In fact, another aspect of this is that if you look at, Swami Dhananji had pointed out this so well, that if you look at knowledge, similar to restating what I said in other language, if you look at knowledge of things, it can never complete. Never. That example of the rose actually is from that standpoint. You can explain the color maybe, how the molecular structure created the color of the rose, a few other things, but there's always in the end you say, this we do not know. And in fact, the more you know, the more you understand, you don't know. You cannot understand the limits of it, except for self-knowledge. It is singular, it is definitive, and in the beginning, you don't know, but once you know it fully. There's nothing left out. This we have to understand. These are all just concepts that are pointed out, but we need to be very clear about it. Anyway, so going back to the context, that is the context, that we cannot, the world will not provide vyavastha for us. It is avyavastha. So in that now we are studying the karika in that sense. So in number 8, we've already done number 7. Okay. So in number 7 we saw Vibhutim prasavam tu anye manyante shrishti chintikaha. Shrishti chintikaha means, so these are people who are analyzing how the creation took place. So in the realm of the analysis of how the creation took place, it's called Shrishti Chintikaha. And we saw Vibhutim Prasavam tu Anya. I won't go into that. And then Swapnamaya Rupa iti Shrishtihi Anyaihi Vikalpitaha. They all have different theories and so on and so forth. We went into that. Now, let's take up other thoughts where we also then lead to the end that no matter how you approach what the whole world is, you cannot figure it out. And you don't need to figure it out. So in that sense, now let's start number 8. So he says, Ichha matram prabhoho shrishtihi iti shristau vinishritaha. So let's look at the first line. So he says, again, this is up to the creation. Creation means the whole world as we see them, how we see it. So he says, Shristau Vinishritaha means that in so if you look at the English translation, that is good. Creation is due to just the will of Ishvara. So think others who are quite convinced about there being a creation. Good English translation. So, Ichha matram prabhoho shrishtihi iti shristau vinishritaha. If you look at the Sanskrit Anvaya, Shrishtihi prabhoho ichha matram iti anye shristauhu vinishritaha. Good. So he says, those who are convinced about the reality of the creation, so you start with the assumption that the creation is real. It's like being convinced that the snake is real. Now the question is, how did it come about? And so this view is Ichha matram Prabhoho. Prabhu's desire to create. This is how it came about. So this is the subtopic now. Now let's look at this subtopic and look at the commentaries on that. So here, I'll go into some detail on each one of these. Yeah. So he says that the Prabhu here means, the word Prabhu means Prakarshena Bhu. Prakarshena Bhuhu miti Prabhu. Bhu means Bhavati, one which is. And so things are, everything is a Bhu. And so table is a Bhu, you and I are Bhus, mean we exist. But we are not Prabhu. Actually we are Prabhu. But as a Jiva, we are not a Prabhu. And the reason the word Prabhu is used, Prakarshena Bhu. Prakarshena Bhu means it is absolutely existing, not relatively existing. As Satyam Jnanam Anantam, the very Swarupa of the Lord, which is the Swarupa of you and I, same thing, no difference, is Prabhu. So we are Prabhu, but we don't understand that, and so we only become Bhu. This is the situation. Anyway, just a explanation of the word Prabhu. So here the Shrishti Chintika, people who explain how the Shrishti came about, say that it is due to just the desire of Prabhu, Ishvara, just the desire. And we say no, that cannot. Why not? Why do we say it cannot be? Because just by Ichha, you cannot create. Just by Ichha, just by Ichha, just by the desire. If desire alone is the reason for creation, it cannot be. Why not? Why can't Ichha be? Because it's a Prabhu, it can do anything. So, this is an interesting example that both the Swami Dayanand Ji, and those are the ones that I've studied. It's not saying other acharyas don't say it, this is my experience. Swami Dayanand, Swami Maheswaran Ji, same example, they said that even Prabhu cannot equate a square with a circle. And also another example that Swami Maheswaran Ji gave, very interesting, the first time I saw that, he says, supposing, so you have the concept of squaring. You square. Square means you multiply it with something. So supposing you have 2. 2 squared becomes 4. 3 squared becomes 9. That means it's vate. That increases. There's an exception to this. And even Ishvara, so somebody goes to Ishvara and says, Ishvara, can you, everything, if you square it just goes? He says, yes. So he says, okay, make a square of 1. Ishvara says, oops, I can't do that. You make a square of 1, it stays as 1. So you said, maybe I didn't do it properly. Let square 1, still 1. It doesn't go anywhere. Swami Dayanand Ji had given this example. He said, somebody approached Ishvara and said, I understand that you are Sarvagyaha Sarvashaktiman. He says, yep, that's true. I can do anything. He says, anything? He says, yeah, I can do anything. He says, okay, give me a head. Ishvara said, oops, I cannot give you a head. So he says, I told you, that means you do not, can you give me everything? Can you just desire to give me a head? He says, I can give you another head. But you already have a head, so that I cannot fulfill. So these are all important things to say, that Ishvara cannot simply by desire. There are limitations. Also another thing is that by desire he cannot create something from nothing. He cannot do that. So that means that the whole Shrishti is not just to be Ichha. There must already be something, and there is. The whole, in fact, the other is, look at the argument. See, this is a beautiful argument. Shrishti says that it was not there first, and due to the Ichha of the Ishvara, it came about. This is what Shrishti Chintikas are saying. So if you really say, what do you mean by the Ichha Matram Shrishti? They say, well, it wasn't there before, and then he just desired that I think we should have it. And so it came about. That cannot be. That cannot be, because just by desiring, you cannot create things. You have to have something in mind. Even in our case also, we need to have some samskaras. We need to have some prior thoughts that give us some ideas on what to do. You cannot just out of thin air. Ishvara also is the same. Cannot do that. So what the Ishvara does is, in fact, what it means is there is no Shrishti. So this is another argument. See, that's whenever we were talking about the snake not being there, this is an example of that. That the Shrishti Chintikas, he says, no, the Shrishti is there because we see it. We see the world expanding and all kinds of funny things are going on, we see it. The question is, how did it get there? And the answer to the Vedanta says, first of all, please see that nothing can be created just by Ichha. You need to have, so just like, for example, even in the case of, you look at a pot maker, kulalaha. Kulala means a pot maker. So the pot maker may also have some desires, but the desires also need to have some backing. How did the ideas come about? He says, I want to make it tall and round. So the word tall and round must be understood by him previously as a child. And then he has to find out where is the right material. All of those things have to be there already. So by Ichha Matram alone, you cannot create. And even if you create, it is not perfect. You cannot square the one. This is an exception to the square rule. There is no vardhate, no vardhanam. And so there we say this is not correct. Just by Ichha Matram, you cannot do it. What it means is, if you think this is a creation, it's a mistake. In fact, what happens is, as we know, that there is no creation. This is the way it is. This is an important thing to see. I'm just giving you an introduction. So please understand this very well in terms of what Vedanta's view is. You and I may not naturally say it yet, but we need to have the Shraddha that this is what Vedic knowledge is saying. The Vedic knowledge is saying that the whole world, what is seen to be creation, is the swabhava of Ishvara. It is the swabhava of Ishvara. This is the way it is. Don't overanalyze it. So, avyavastha. There's no vyavastha. We go into more detail. There's no karana karya. You cannot definitively say the same thing, that it is sat asat bhyam anirvachaniyam. That it is, so the whole maya, the whole appearance of the world is neither sat nor asat, something in between. So the appearance of a snake on a rope, you cannot say that it is not there because you got scared. You ran away from it. Real scare. And you cannot say it is there because it is not there. So therefore, the entire creation is like that. Entire creation, not just aspect of it. Some particular aspect, for that particular reason, you may say there is vyavastha. You know, like for example, if the class is for an hour and a half, there is a vyavastha that the class will be there for hour and a half. Yes, you also agree, I also agree, we all have the same watch. There is vyavastha. But if you look at the totality of it, it's like saying that certain aspect of rose we can explain. But ultimately we come across saying we don't know how the aroma of the rose came about. How aromas can be described by molecular structure, we don't know. And so therefore, ultimately you have to go that the whole world is the very swabhava of Ishvara. So another way to look at that is that, you know, you look at fire and you can explain, for example, how fire comes about because of, you know, the friction of the molecules and something or the other. I don't know, but you can explain it. But why the fire is there as it is, you cannot analyze it. It's just the way it is. It's part of the whole Srishti. Ishvara must have thought that this would be good to have something which is heating, something which is lighting, something like this, something water, and so you have a combination of things that creates the Srishti. And there is not something which is started. This is the very swabhava of Ishvara. And the summary of this is that the swabhava of Ishvara is due to not understanding the reality of Ishvara. You can postulate all kinds of creations and so on and so forth, but you cannot overanalyze it because that won't give you the answer. It's just the way it is. And again, we always should accompany saying this is the way it is. You see, this is the thing where the other schools of thought, for example, completely reject Vedanta. They're saying this is all Mayavadins. They don't understand how they explain everything by saying that it cannot be understood. We will explain it to you. We have a complete theory. So we say, okay, what is your theory? Tell us. They say, you know, this is the way it came about, and so on and so forth. And say, well, how is it going to end, and so on. We'll say, well, some things we do not understand. So there's a kind of like an X factor. So we say, See, we told you that from the very beginning. You're coming back to the same thing. Very interesting. This something will come on. Is it in this one, or is it the next verse about how the Buddhists think? This is a very important thing. Anyway, I'll come to that. Anyway, so I think we're done with the. So one other thing is the definition of chintya and achintya. We saw the vyavastha and avyavastha, but the words chintya and achintya. So one modification of what we might have said before, for a reason. Chintya means it can be defined. It can be thought through. It has a vyavastha. We'll figure it out. This is called chintya. One which is subject to being examined is called chintya. Achintya means the one that cannot be figured it out. Then we can say that the swabhava of Ishvara is neither chintya nor achintya. This is a correct statement. It is neither chintya nor achintya. Why is it not chintya? Because of the reasons we gave before, that you ultimately you will have an X factor of saying this we do not know. This we do not know. So that's why it is not chintya. Achintya it is not by saying that it's not as though the existence of order in your life is not chintya. It is. In other words, you have a lot of things that can be figured it out. So for relative freedom, and this is how we do in our life, we just want relative security. We don't want absolute security, because we don't know what absolute security is. So all we can do is to have enough money to last me a while, to have enough health that that doesn't bother me every day. Those kinds of things. That you can do. That you can do. So it's not as though Ishvara is completely achintya. But ultimately, because the interesting thing is that we want unlimited, absolute happiness, but not know how to get it, only settle for something which is relative. This is exactly what it is. So what that means is that just by settling with something which is relative, we are not completely happy with it. This is just a temporary, this is like a, you just go to a pharmacist, so it's a disease. You know that you have a real disease and you're willing to just obliterate some of the symptoms by going to the pharmacist. But deep down below, you have a real disease that you cannot get rid of. So similarly here also, that on the final analysis, it is, you have to see that the world is neither chintya nor achintya. It is something beyond that. And again, all of this will come about in the 7th verse of the Upanishad. We haven't even started that. All we are doing at this point is analyzing the commenting on the first 6 verses, which says neti, neti, neti. This is not the truth, this is not the truth. And why is it not the truth? We are going through this. That there is no vyavastha possible. It is just the way it is. Don't overanalyze it. That is the topic that we are studying. Be very clear about it. Okay. Then, very briefly, the second line of the 8th verse. So the first line I think we pretty much covered, which is Ichha matram prabhoho shrishti shristau vinishritaha. Then the second one is Kalat prasutim bhutanam manyante kalachintika. Kalachintika. So one was the Shrishti Chintika, here it is Kalachintika. Kalachintika means one who think time is the most important thing in our life. Everything is, time has a certain reality, and we have to be respecting time, understanding time, working within the time, and so on. So the entire the entire astrology. So Swami Maheshananji says it's very interesting. You have you know, this is what happens, that you have some problems in your life, one thing after another. If something happens by itself, then you don't think about it. But then you discover there's 3 or 4 things are happening. There must be something. So you go to an astrologer and he says, "Sir, I'm having a lot of problems in my life. Can you please look at my horoscope?" He says, "Okay, let me look at it." He says, "Aha, Rahu has entered your life. It is, that explains it. That explains it." And then you say, "Really? That's wonderful." Then, I mean, wonderful in the sense there is a reason. How long is it going to last? Then he says, "Let me look at it." He says, 3 years and 3 more months. He says, "What?" Remember this, I think Swami Dayanandji had given this joke. He says exactly like this. So somebody says to a friend, he says, "You know, there is an astrologer that you have to go to, and he'll tell your life exactly." So he says, "Really, I can go to him?" So he goes to him and he says, "Sir, I want to understand my life." He says, "Well, let me see. You've had a very miserable life, right?" He says, "Yes." "How did you know that?" He says, "Well, there are some indications, I can tell. And you had problems with your spouse also, didn't you?" So he says, "Yes, absolutely, yes, definitely." And so he said, now his Shraddha was just, this guy is the greatest, so wonderful. He says, "The question is, what next?" So he says, you are about 40, right?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "I'm about 40. He says, "So what about next?" He says, "The only thing I can tell you is, things aren't going to change very much, but you'll get used to it." Actually, this is what happens in our life, really. Really, there's some truth to it. We fight it and so on. Finally, let me just give in. And by doing that, you feel better, really speaking. So the Kala Chintikaha, they ascribe everything to time. And it becomes a science that Rahu has entered, this has happened, Shanti, this, all kinds of things, and so on and so forth. And ultimately, even that doesn't really explain. All of a sudden, supposing your diseases that you went through, they all get cleared, and Rahu is still there. Rahu hasn't gone, but it has. Now you don't even visit the astrologer. You say, it's okay. I'm all right. Everything is gone. My disease is gone. You cannot figure it out by doing Kala Chintika. Anyway, nothing much to say. That is all done. Now let's go to verse number 9. So here, Bhogartham Shishtihi iti anye Kridartham iti cha apare. So here we go from the analysis of Karana. Up to now, we have been doing a vichara, thinking about Karanata, about the cause, right? So what is the cause of it? How did it come about? Ichha matram, prasavam, etc., etc. Okay? We now shift over to prayojanam. Prayojanam means what is the purpose of the Srishti, not what the cause of Srishti is, but what is to be done about it. Why, for what purpose is it? Yes, Swami Maheswaranji gave an example that supposing you come about, you're going outside and then you come about and your wife or your husband, your spouse says, oops, you've got a spot on your shirt. And this is one of your favorite shirts, and it says, oh my God, you're right. Now there are two possibilities. You spend the time in understanding how the spot came about. How did it happen? Oh, were you there? And then, I think, it's useless. The question is, how do we get the spot out? You know, and I don't know if you, I bought these books from, this is like before the internet came about, so this must have been about 15, 20 years ago. So I saw this program on television by this English guy. He was from England. He talked about how to remove problem spots, etc. in your life, and how to clean things. I was very impressed. So I bought 2 books from it. This is about 15 years. And it really has been very, very useful. Very useful. Nowadays you can just Google it and say, you know, how do I clean brass? And it says you put this, that, or the other. Yeah. So the whole question should be not how it came about, but what is the purpose and how does it benefit me? So we are now shifting from Karanata to Prayojanata. So number 9 is now Prayojanam. Bhogartham Shrishti. That the Srishti is for our benefit, individual benefit, so we can enjoy life. That is the reason for this whole Srishti. Some say that this is the way it is, and in fact, not some say, most of our world says this. This is the main thinking, that the whole creation, the whole world is to improve my experience. This is why a developed country is better than an undeveloped country. And this is why statistics are taken. How many cars are in China now? Because now people can enjoy, they can go in a car, they can afford it. And so similarly, how many refrigerators are there in the villages in India? That means that things have to improve. The whole Srishti is to get better, to become more developed, and to enjoy the life and so on and so forth. Whether that happens or not, we don't know. Just by getting more money, whether people enjoy or not, we have no idea. In fact, there is some evidence to say that those two are not, they're not completely related. Maheshananji gives an example. He said, you know, you see a very rich family, a very well-to-do, and they have a child. And you go into to see the child, and your view is, lucky guy to be born in this family. You know, that means he must have done a lot of punya karma in the past to be born in this family with lots of money and so on and so forth. Then, several years later, if you follow the life of this guy turns out to be a bum. He's a bully in school. And as he grows up more, he falls into bad habits. He cheats, he does not pay his taxes, and he lies through, so on and so forth. And you find, is this true? You cannot say that this is due to punya karma. There must be some papa karma also. And you don't know which one is more predominant. You cannot overanalyze. Similarly, you find that in a very poor village of India, where people have a hard time even meeting, some child is born. As in the case of Raman Maharshi, you can one take it. This guy turns out to be a saint. He's very happy himself, and he makes everybody else happy. So can you say that he was born because of papa karma? You cannot say that. You cannot say anything. That's why in Vedanta they say, please don't analyze karma. Because you can connect karana karya up to a point. But beyond that, don't avyavastha. You cannot do so. Here, one other interesting thing Swami Maheshanji pointed out, that along with the bhogartham shishtihi, that it is more meant for our enjoyment, we now bring in the next life. We bring in the next life. And then we say that, by the way, do not do too much bhoga in this life. And because prepare for next life. And in fact here, the Islam says something very interesting. I had sort of heard that a couple of times. They say that do not drink alcohol in this life. You know why they say there's no do not drink alcohol? Because if you go to Bahisht, if you are a good Muslim and you don't drink alcohol in parties, then don't just be a teetotaler. You will go to Bahisht, and there will be rivers of alcohol that you can take anytime. Imagine a life where you are completely drunk all the time, because it is freely available. Here you have to pay for, Johnny Walker, it's very expensive, and so on and so forth. He says, if you can just hang in there for a few more years, and in fact there I understand that the definition of Bahisht is where, but this is why it is called, it's an Arabic religion, there is no water. So they say there will be so much water in Bahisht. There's no greenery. There'll be so much greenery. And also, by the way, there's no alcohol here. There'll be so much alcohol there. And then, of course, apsaras. So you'll have 76 virgins and so on and so forth. So therefore, Muslims are not the only, we also do the same thing. We also, perhaps not to the same degree, but the Vaishnavas and Shaivats and so on, they say there is in fact a beautiful experience, but you have to control yourself here, somehow or the other. But in case bhogartham shrishtihi has two components. One is the current enjoyment, and the other one is postponed enjoyment in the future. And they say, and in fact, interestingly enough, many of the schools of thought wrongly say that if you go to heaven, you stay there for the rest of your existence. And so therefore, the whole Shrishti is described in the terms that it is meant for your enjoyment. We say no. No. Cannot do that. We'll go into that, all of that. Then, the second part of the first line is kridartham. Kridartham. I want to bring in before the class the Buddhist view. I think it will come. Anyway, so kridartham means, and this is also another word for what is called lila. So the word lila is used, or krida is earth, which means just to play. Just to play. It's like saying that Ishvara was bored. You know, just like sometimes we are also kind of like saying, hey, I'm bored. Isn't there something good to do? Let's play rummy. And so just because we just want to have some fun. So Ishvara was bored, and so he thought it'll be fun to create this whole thing. And by the way, Swami Maheshananji points out that, interestingly enough, just the Shaivites, amongst, just look at our own, instead of criticizing Islam, just look at our own Vedic, Shaivites feel that they belong to the Bhogartham. Shaivites belong to the Bhogartham, that really you go to Swargaloka, and then you will enjoy. And even here it should be you just do bhakti, and then that is the only way for you to really make progress. So this is one thing. Then in the Kridartham are the Vaishnavas. And so here Ramanujam, Vallabha, Madhva, and all these people, they believe that it is really meant for Kridartham. Okay? And so there we can say, this is also not completely true, because in Kridartham, in Krida, in any kind of a play, there is a loss as well as a gain. There is a dukkha as well as sukha. And Maheshananji pointed out, he says, you know, there are some children, what they will do, if there is a row of ants going, some will enjoy it and say, wow, look at the ants. Some with some not so good way of looking at it. The children, I'm talking about one or two, or, you know, very small kids, they will poke needles at them and crush them. And when they all scatter, they'll say, see what I did? How powerful I am, and so on. So it is, Ishvara must be someone like that. You have these mass, you know, problems, deaths, and so on and so forth. He must enjoy bothering people. Just because he was bored, just like this child is also bored, and he says, wow, I got these ants all killed up. Isn't this fun? He must be something like this. Kridartham. Not Kridartham. Cannot do that. And in fact, now I can bring in the Buddhist view. The Buddhists, don't believe in Ishvara. You don't believe in Ishvara. And have a logic for why they don't believe in Ishvara. And that logic is along these lines of Kridartham. So they say that, in fact, let me look into the exact, I'll go into reason 238. 238, yeah. No, it's not here. Anyway, I think I can remember the essence of it. I don't know where it is. So the Buddhists say there's no Ishvara. Why not? Because the definition of Ishvara, that he's a good person. And that's obvious, because it should be the evil is not the end of our life. It's very obvious to us that really Sukham is the main thing. So Ishvara, who's the top guy, he should also be a good person. Then the second thing should be that for creating you need all the skills, the amount of knowledge and the skills and Shakti, etc. all should be there, should be totally powerful. And but this doesn't follow that. Because, so for example, supposing there's a person who is a good person, and he cannot really be working as a good actor all the time. Why? Because he says, you know what, even though I mean well, I can't do it. I don't have the power to really do that. So he says that should not apply to Ishvara. Because didn't you define that there is a person who is able to, good logic for it. There is good logic for it. Because they'll say, Vedanta, that tell us, why do you believe in Ishvara? Because the person, is he because he's not good enough? Is he because he's good but not powerful enough? It's like, supposing you are working for a company and you are very dharmic, but there are things that go on in the company, and so you can tell someone that, what can I do? I want to do it, but my boss wouldn't let me. He says, please cheat. So is Ishvara like that, who says, I am very good, but I can't do it? That cannot also be, because he's the top guy. So therefore the Buddhists say there is no Ishvara. You define it. And as we explain the whole thing, we say there is no, so this is the crux of it. Kartritvam, shrashtatvam, prayojanatvam, meaning that an intent to do, kartritvam means an intent to do, shrishtatvam means intent to create, and prayojanatvam means having an intent to have a purpose cannot be ascribed to Ishvara. Cannot be. Why? Why can't we do it? Because the whole creation is the swabhava. This is the way it is. And the elements of swabhava are that if you know the reality, there is no dukkha. If you don't know the reality, there is an appearance of dukkha. This can be summarized as the swabhava of the whole world, or the swabhava of Ishvara. Again, if you knew that this was a rope, you have no fear. If you don't know this is a rope, you can imagine different things depending upon your samskaras. If you're afraid of snakes, you may imagine a snake. If you're not afraid of snakes, then you may imagine it to be differently, like a garland on the floor. In any case, there is a superimposition of mistake. So similarly, in our life also, the whole thing is to understand, and this is the beauty of it. Beauty of it is that this movie has a very good ending. Nobody wants to go to a movie where, supposing you go to a movie where 90% of that is fun and games, and in the end there is a very tragic ending. They cannot go to how can anybody go to a movie like that unless you just sort of like enjoy the tragedy. You may relate to it. This is what's happening to me also, so I want others also to be tragic. Some weird reason. But the interesting thing is that a movie has a lot of plots for where sukha dukkha occurs, and in the end there should be a very good end. So our life is also like that. Really, it's like a movie where there's a lot of stuff happening, but in the end it's going to end very well, and the end is to know the reality. So to summarize, it says this is the swabhava of Ishvara, swabhava of the whole world, and there's no need to analyze it. Don't overanalyze it, because you are the whole. So this is the detailed and a very insightful commentary, and we are towards the end of it now. And so now, so far we've been talking about not overanalyzing what, it's like saying don't overanalyze the snake. Instead, put your energies in understanding the rope. And that understanding of the rope will begin with the 7th verse of the Upanishad very soon, hopefully next week itself. So with that, I close. Om swasti prajabhyah paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaah go brahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam loka samastha sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah prithvi sasya shalini deshoyam shobharahitah brahmana santu nirbhayaah sarve bhavantu sukhinah sarve santu niramayaah sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Right? Yeah.
So, you mentioned, so we talked about the verse 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we said that we cannot ascribe the creation to the will or desire of Ishvara.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, in Taittiriya Upanishad,
Yes.
done the so kamete.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So it is. The question is that we say that Ichha Matram is not correct for Ishvara, but in the Taittiriya Upanishad it says So Kamayata, that's how he described. So that is just a figurative way of saying it. It is, you know. So what it could be said is that the swabhava of Ishvara is, so even there is no discrepancy. Why not? Because the swabhava of Ishvara is that sometimes it is unmanifested and sometimes it is manifested. And so the manifestation is the swabhava of Ishvara. So the kamayate is also consistent with which is already there. So very similarly to you and I, when we go to sleep, we cease our existence, so to speak. We are no longer a human being. We you know, and so on and so forth. We just become absolutely so-called non-existent. But then we come up again. Same thing happens from one life to the other. So similarly in Ishvara's Srishti also, there are periods where there is pralaya. And then there is a desire that I should now wake up. And so that desire is not something which came out it's not because he's lonely or anything like that, but because this is the swabhava. It is time to wake up.
Okay, so the stress is not on the not having the desire itself, but the fact that there is an unmanifest creation and a manifest, and it doesn't come out of nothing, right?
Yes,
that's
exactly right. There's a lot of what you're asking is a very good question. There's a lot of discussion about this in the Brahma Sutras also, and which says that the description of Srishti in the Upanishads is not to prove Srishti, but in order to prove the independence of the Vastu away from Srishti. And so, which is true in our life also, that when you wake up, you can say, how did my memories come up today? You can analyze it and so on and so forth. So it says that that's useless to do. If you want to do it, you can do it. But the real thing would be, this is what the turiya is. So you have the 3 matras, the 4 matras, swapna matra, etc., etc. So the main thing is to look at turiya, which hasn't come yet. So similarly here also, the description of Srishti in the Upanishads is not to analyze the Srishti, but to say that there is no Srishti. Yeah. So that point that you brought up is actually raised very well. And then in the Brahma Sutras, there is a adhikarana called the Srishti Adhikarana. So that point is discussed here, that why does the Upanishad say that, and then what is the meaning for it. So it's not casual, it's discussed very well. Good question. Yeah.
In Mandukya Upanishad that we are studying in the Atma group, it starts with at the end of the Pralaya, when the Srishti is supposed to come again, Ishvara or Brahma visualizes the Srishti and takes into account all the karmas,
yes.
and all the,
yes.
and then based on that laws of karmas and all that, the Srishti comes around.
Correct.
How do we relate?
No, it's the same thing. It's not so. It just means that. So what it really means is that there is no Srishti. It is simply manifestation. Srishti is just a word. When you say creation, the word creation normally means that there was nothing now, and now it is created. This is how it means. So in the case of the pralaya also, the same thing happens, that it is simply a sukshma, in the sukshma form, just like going to sleep at night time, that you don't have your indriyas working and so on and so forth. Your eyes are not working. your ears are not working, somebody can just steal your things without your understanding it, but you're still there in a sukshma form. But similarly in pralaya also, all of the karmas of the various people are just kept in abeyance and nothing is really functioning. And so when the time comes for the whole creation, then it is not arbitrary. It is not ichha matram in that sense. It is simply in keeping with what is already there and just the waking up of, and in fact there is no, so it's interesting to see that really speaking, in one form or the other, we have always been there. We are never created. We are only created in a given life in the specifics of it, but we've always been there. Everything has always been there. There's no beginning of time. And so in that manner, it's very consistent with what Mandukya is saying and what Taittiriya is saying and what this Mandukya is saying. Yeah.
But, so then can we say that he is the Ishvara's nature, the Swabhava, is to create?
No, not to create, just to manifest and not unmanifest.
Okay. So manifest and
manifest and unmanifest. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, if you want to call it, you want to call a manifestation as creation, you can do so if you want to do it that way. So again, you see, this is the thing: is that you try to overanalyze, or you try to analyze. Forget about overanalyze. Just analyze, as though this is a real creation, and you're not going to be able to do it. No. Yeah. So this is, I think we should, I think the way we are presenting all this, you should really become an understanding of what Vedanta, how is it is presenting the facts, and be able to represent it in your mind, and be able to talk to people. But first be very clear about it yourself. There is something very unique about this, and so this view of the world and our approach to it, problem solving, all of that has to be understood in a composite way as presented by Vedanta. So that's why the Karika comes in. You see, this is an advanced text. It's not just that, because the basics are that yes, we all dream and we have a Jagrata Avastha and so on. But now to analyze the implications of that is done by Karika, by Gaudapada. And we are so privileged to have a guide in the form of Swami Maheshanandji that gives us an insight into the subtleties of what the implications are for this, and this is a great opportunity really for us to discuss it in this class. All right, so we will see you next week. Oh, sorry, just 1 minute. I'm sorry, Meera.
Yeah, so when we went to the ashram, we got these souvenirs